Nicer than a Louis Vuitton dust bag. With only a single needle sewing machine, we're going to create, with French seams, this dust bag. That's right, my friend. We're going to teach you how to make a dust bag. All right. So about a year ago, I gifted a bag from Bloomingdale's to my husband's sister, and I thought it would be coming with like a dust bag, but it didn't. So I thought, why not make one? So I recorded it and I didn't get to edit it until now. So here we are. So first things first, I made like a paper template, which is super simple because it's just a rectangle. I placed the bag towards the middle top of the paper, leaving enough room for the bag and to do the French seam allowance on the side seams. I just drew a straight line along the edge that's half an inch away from its paper edge. Then I drew a line at the top edge of the paper, which will be our opening, and we will be making a double turn here. That's a tunnel, so then the ribbon could go through, kind of like this example. So make sure that there's enough for your desired ribbon or drawstring. I drew 2 more lines below the top line and they are half an inch away from each other. Next, in a very professional manner, not really, I approximately measured with like my fingers how much vertical space the bag needs, and I drew a line at the bottom as so, and this will be our fold line. So I wrote that down there as a reminder. Now for the horizontal measurement of the dust bag, I measured the width of the bag at its thickest part, and then I added a 1/4 to that measurement for the additional room that we need for the French seam allowance. So the width of the bag is approximately like 3.5. I added a 1/4, so it's gonna be like 3 3/4 and in total. And I marked that at the bottom line at both sides of the bag. And then I drew a long line from the bottom to the top, and I made sure to add its 1/2 inch seam allowance so it's like even on the other side. And boom! Now we can cut it out. I cut 2 notches on both sides of where the double turn guidelines are at as well. Now we are going to place the template on top of our desired fabric. I folded the fabric and made sure the template's fold line is actually on the fold line of the fabric, and made sure that we are following our grain line that's parallel to the selvage. Use a chalk to trace, but for visibility, I'll be using a Sharpie. Definitely don't use a Sharpie on yours because we don't want to take any chances for mistakes. After tracing, we can cut the fabric and cut the notches marked here. And now that you got a real nice rectangle, let's take it to the machine. Oh, and remove your pins if you added pins. So first, we will be marking where we will be starting to sew. Let's align the sides where we will be sewing, which is at the top where the slit notches are at. It's a 1/2 an inch below the last notch that we have here. And it's important to note that I have the wrong sides of the fabric facing each other, and the seam allowance we are sewing here is a 1/4. We will sew all the way through to the fold, back stitch, and done. And you should have it open like this at the top. After that, we press down the seams like this. Now do the same thing to the other side of the rectangle. Now we will pull out the inside out, and I used the sharp end of my scissors to nicely point out the corners. And as you can see, the side seams are puffed, so we need to press the seams down so it's a little easier and smoother to finish this French seam allowance. Trust me, you really don't want to skip this step as it will give a very clean look to your dust bag. Now you will notice that the seam allowance raw edge is in the inside, and your fabric should be right sides facing each other. We want to sew like a little bit more than a 1/4, in that way we can cover that raw edge. Therefore, we will be sewing 3/8 from the edge. Now this is where the French seam starts to be a French seam. You know, you gotta sew a little bit more than what you originally sewed for the side seam. And you should get a clean line like this, and do this to the other side seam as well. Now I press the seams down, and at the top where we have our notches, I press the edges like this to prep our next sewing step, which is sewing a 1/4 away from the raw edge that we have at the top opening. And I did this for both sides and went back to pressing. So I pressed the stitch lines first, and then I folded the edge to where the stitch line is at, which should be a quarter because that's what we sewed. And I did that to both sides, and then I folded the edges again towards the inside to meet each other at the side seams like this. And I pressed them down so then when it's time to sew, it's an easy line to follow, and boom, así de fácil. Now, 1/8 away from the bottom folded edge, you sew all the way through from the top to the bottom, and do the same for the other side. Now, this is how the side seams should look. Super clean, super nice. Look at that, so crisp. And the top opening looks like this, just clean. Wow, chickadee boom, chickadee boom. I don't even know what that means. Now pull the inside out, and this will be the official exterior side of the bag. And on the sides here, you will need to press that so it doesn't bubble up like this right now. But before we do that, let's insert our ribbon or draw cord, whatever you decide, through the tunnels that we have created here. Just make sure your ribbon or draw cord is thin enough to go through the tunnel. In order for the ribbon to not fray or rip, I tape the end and poke through a pin, and I will use this pinned end to push through the tunnel. So choose any side and push the pin through. When you get to push out the ribbon to the other end of the tunnel, you will notice that some of the raw edge or like the frays are coming out of the tunnel from the fabric. All you gotta do is poke those little frays back in there in that hole with the sharp end of the scissors, and then continue to push the ribbon through the other side's tunnel. And when you get to the end, make sure to leave about 5 inches or more of ribbon, and go ahead, snip the ends at an angle, and then lightly pass it through flame so then the raw edges kind of melt and seal, and then tie the ends together. Now repeat the same thing but the opposite way, so the opposite direction, and the tunnel ends will look like this, and done. Oh, but remember to press the side seams down with the iron and it will look so much cleaner. I'm telling you, so do it. And now you know how to make a nice dust bag for all your bags, or for a gift like I did. Whatever you like, you do it, girl. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one, and let me know if you guys have any questions down in the comments. Hope you guys had a great start to your year, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.